and welcome to the AV Club and the Irish NFL Show. My name is Shane Brennan, that is Ben Costello. Craig was watching a Reading football match tonight and said, look, I'm actually not available for the AV Club this week. So we were like, our awards thing might take a little bit of a rest because, Ben, we're sitting here. I'm in my Patriots jersey, you're in your Seahawks jersey. Next week in San Francisco, we have to be as professional as possible. I think now we can sit back as fans, take in the moment when the Patriots won the most entertaining AFC Championship game in history. Would you agree? The Patriots, the AFC Championship game was...
We've both gone with a retro jersey this week, as we're alluding to the rematch that we are playing out, 12 years later?
11 years, yeah.
So we're throwing it back to time previous, but yeah, entertaining, sure. That's a bit of a stretch, but...
So it was a great match. I don't know what people were giving out about it. So you had turnovers, you had the backup quarterback having a nice go over Jared Stidham in the first half, the snow coming in. I thought it was a very entertaining matchup, no?
They must have been wearing the throwback jerseys as well. They went back in 1976 with that level of offense from both teams.
We are, but for those of us who cannot see us, we're both recording. We live like 15 minutes away from each other. We took the opportunity to record in a room. I'm wearing my Teddy Bruschi 1990s jersey. Funny enough, the Patriots have only played one Super Bowl. This is a great stat you can say as a Patriots fan because this is now our 12th finale.
Like this era of Super Bowl, would you like to talk about?
Yeah, well, we played one wearing this, the Drew Bledsoe. So last Bill Parcells year against the Packers and lost. You're wearing a nice Jackson Smith-Njigba throwback one. As in Jackson Smith-Njigba is obviously the current player, but I mean the Seahawks do like regularly wear that throwback jersey. I did find interesting talking points on social media when they're looking back at this matchup and saying, why don't both of these teams just wear like the Patriots red jersey, the Seahawks blue jersey are like among the best in the throwbacks. Like wouldn't that be more fun than just like the plain blue and white that we're going to see like we see every other year?
There has been a petition among Seahawks fans to make that the grey helmet and the retro jersey their full-time thing because it is the cleanest. It's up there. It's good. It's a nice jersey. It's up there with the creamsicle in the Buccaneers. But when you look back to when these jerseys were worn, it wasn't exactly a winning era, and I think that's what people probably they look great, but they don't particularly hold much. And that's why we changed to the jerseys we are now. Because even the jerseys, the Reebok stuff, and that wasn't a very winning era. So.
You made the Super Bowl in 2005, lost to the Steelers, but you still made,
So we switched it up. We put in the jerseys that we have now, which are still amongst the cleanest of NFL jerseys. But that's people's logic behind not making them. And I think the more you wear a jersey like their red jersey and the Buccaneers creamsicle jersey, I think the more you wear it, the more does it look there. So I think so.
I want to see more of them.
Special occasion when it comes out,
The Super Bowl is a special occasion. No? Is that not the specialist of occasions?
They decided on what jerseys are being worn.
So by this is the AV Club brought to you in association with the TapHouse Bar and Grill in Ranelagh. And it's funny because we can talk about obviously the great food in the Tap House. It was Craig who was doing a lot of the cooking for us when it comes to the graphics. Some really nice stuff. For even the graphics he didn't get to use, he managed to get ones for all the 4 different possible Super Bowl matchups. But it was funny because he's the kind of detail-oriented person where he's looking at the fact that the Patriots are the AFC team. They have the right to choose the color jersey. And they're like, well, obviously the Patriots are going to wear blue and the Seahawks are going to wear white. We're talking about like, you can tell we have 2 weeks to talk about the actual football. We've gone straight to jersey talk. But I think the Patriots are going to wear what? Did you have this? Were you saying?
Statistics are quite high on teams wearing the white jerseys winning compared to the home jersey. I think the only kind of outlier in the last few years is the Eagles last year winning, but then the 2 years prior to that, they lost. The Tigers lost, and I think you can go back quite a while. The white jerseys tend to prevail more often than not.
I think 2/3 in the 21st century have been white jerseys. Yeah, so I don't know. Interesting one. How are you feeling about it? Let's take a step back because, I mean, it's quite something for either of these teams who, before the season, were 60-1 to make the Super Bowl. I'll come back to that point in a second when I look back at the teams who were rated higher than the Seahawks and Patriots to make the Super Bowl. In the Patriots' case, 60-1, I think were fair odds. I would argue that the Seahawks have been underrated for most of the year at getting to the stage. So I don't. It must feel, obviously, someone who's been watching them for, I say, you must feel like, does this feel like it's well earned, this berth from your point of view, because a lot of Patriots fans, a lot of people look at the Patriots saying, "Oh well, look how easy you had it. CJ Stroud shit the bed in Foxborough. You played against a backup quarterback in Denver. Well, look, how does it feel in Seattle right now?"
I think Seattle is way more ahead of, or they're on track more so than the Patriots thought they would have been. I think a lot of people thought, right, okay, Mike Vrabel's first year, let's try and make the playoffs, and that's a success. The fact that you're here now in the Super Bowl, I think, has you well ahead of schedule. And for us, you had a lot of people arguing 1 in 3 people. If you ask them who was going to win the division, one person would pick the Seahawks, one person would pick the Niners, and one person would pick the Rams.
Well, I'm sorry. It's an amazing amount of people in the preseason pick the Cardinals. I'm pretty sure, correct me on this, I'm pretty sure Chris Stevens is like, I don't know, I think there's something about the Cardinals this year. It's amazing. And I'll come back to it, like, when I listed the teams who are shorter odds to make the Super Bowl this year, the Arizona Cardinals were one of them. I swear to God, that's true.
People love a dark horse. And by dark horse, they mean we have no idea if this team's good or not. And if I call it correctly and say they're a dark horse and do it well, then it comes out like so. But I mean, as I said, I think you were one of the only people in our team besides myself that saw us taking the division. I said that
Kieran Boyle as well, I think, has been behind Seahawks according to some, yeah.
That decision in house was quite split between who's going to take that between ourselves, San Francisco and Los Angeles. So the fact that we're here, I mean, it's not as surprising that you guys are here. As I said, much more ahead of schedule than us. We've Mike McDonald in his second year, Mike Vrabel in his first year, Drake May in his second year of NFL total, not just his.
Only in his 23rd year of life. Wow. You know what I mean? It's nuts.
So it's great. I've not picked against the Seahawks once this year.
So you've only been wrong 3 times.
I've been wrong 3 times, but I think that's quite a good record. So we're feeling good. Nervous the whole way through the playoffs. Played against some great teams in division with some common opponents that we know very well, which means the stakes are not much higher. So
well, let's stay on that for a second, right? But the fact that so far in the playoffs, I mean, look at the different paths. The Seahawks obviously earned their number 1 overall berth, doing so by beating the 49ers. The last 3 games they've played have been against divisional opponents. They've had 2 goals against the Niners to get their game plan right for a home game with the G'd-up crowd against a team that was. And this isn't me trying to sort of talk down the Seahawks. I'm not trying to bring an agenda here. I'm just trying to figure out, like, the expectations we should have now, because that's one thing. With the Rams, you could clearly see that there was development based purely on their experiences in their matchup, especially in terms of defense. I've seen a lot of analysis talk about how the defense, started out with a lot of zonal coverage and turned to man coverage. The man coverage is significantly better the more you guys play the Rams. Of course, the Patriots is a different prospect, because the Seahawks and Patriots haven't played each other this year. So does that
one of the first time in a couple of years, because once a year we generally we're home to watch that matchup.
And I think the Patriots are playing in Seattle next year as well in the regular season. Yeah.
So it's been a couple of years running around now where our teams are playing, and the last few years it's been a bit of a cakewalk. We had a close one last year, I think, with who was it? Jacoby Brissett at quarterback last year. But yeah, that was Tom Brady. But they're not nearly as equaling on strength of a team as it will be this year. So, I mean, you look at our opponents. Yes, we know them very well, and you could look at that one way and say, okay, you build on what you know, and you've got a couple of goals at them, and you win when it counts, which is in the playoffs. But they're still, these are teams that were vying for the 1 seed in the last couple of weeks. They're extremely strong opponents, and you beat who's in front of you, and that's the exact reason that the Patriots found here. We got to beat who's in front of us. And you guys have a similar argument with the top 5 defenses that you played all playoffs.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, the whole beating, but like Patriots fans are starting to at least somewhat take the point that the schedule was easy, which meant that we were able to get a 2 seed, which obviously played its part in the Houston game in particular. But do you is there a point being taken, not only by you, by Seattle people in general, that as much as these playoffs have been successful, and the game that the Seattle played against the Rams on Sunday night was superb, against a superb Rams team, it must be said. That game was the battle between the two best teams in the NFL. A lot of people will look at that as being the real Super Bowl in quotation marks because of the strength of those two teams compared to the strength of the AFC teams. But you take the point that the fact that the last 3 games have been against divisional opponents does change the complexion as to what we can actually expect from the Seahawks and the play against a team from a different conference that they haven't faced before.
That's entirely fair, and I think anyone that says that last game between us and the Rams was the de facto Super Bowl, I think is way off. You're right. We know each other very well, and the one whom we don't know and we haven't gone up against in the last few weeks is a quarterback that's able to take over a game with his legs. With Rick Sanders, we played against Brock Purdy, who's very agile and he's very shifty, can get out of the pocket, but wants to stay there. And Matt Stafford, him picking up that 4th and 1 with his legs was the most surprising I've seen in a long time from Matt Stafford. So that goes to show you the level of mobility we've been playing against. And then you look in the last few games as well. We played Phillip Rivers. You know what I mean?
Who was nearly the head coach of the Buffalo Bills, let's not forget.
The cheap quarterbacks that we faced in the last few weeks is not particularly high. So you look at that aspect and you think, okay, we have to take this game as seriously as possible. And the de facto Super Bowl from last week is absolutely not the case. Your team is also very familiar with that spotlight. Your head coach has been there as a player.
Scored a touchdown in 2 Super Bowls. He would be the first coach to win as a player and a coach in the same team. Should New England beat the 5.5 point spread and get it over the line? But yeah.
So we're not taking you guys lightly. I think anyone that is thinking that this will be a cakewalk on our side is absolutely wrong. The same way that people were saying that your last game against Denver was going to be an absolute cakewalk.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know what I mean?
As any given Sunday. As I literally wrote in the paper, I was like, this would be a mile-high miracle if Denver pulled this off. And had they kicked a field goal early on in the game and got one less interception, they would have pulled it off quite easily, and the game was open there for them. I'm glad you're not writing us off, because I feel like a significant chunk of the NFL public. I did a podcast today in work, previewing the NFL, and people were coming in and be like, people are like, this is like the worst Super Bowl matchup that we've had if you actually look at the quality of players compared to Eagles Chiefs last year. I'm like, I don't take that point in the Seahawks point of view. Then people are looking at it and being like, Patriots have no chance here. Of course, we remember the first Super Bowl of the Tom Brady era. The Patriots were 14 points underdogs against the Rams. So I'm glad to hear that you're not, that at least people in Seattle aren't taking it lightly, and maybe that's Bruce and David.
There's an interception on the goal line that prevents me from taking the flat ever again. Just so we're aware. I'm fully aware that that's all the stick we're going to get, and that tip's going to be played 1,000 times for the next 2 weeks.
I think
that's perfectly fine. That's fair. You get that.
This is the longest that anybody wearing a Patriots jersey and a Seahawks jersey have sat together without somebody, i.e. somebody wearing a jersey like mine, mentioning either the Malcolm Butler interception or this year the Sam Darnold. I'm seeing ghosts out there, so that's the fact that you mentioned it first. I think you saw us coming ahead.
Put my hand up and own it. Like, there's no point beating around the bush, and that we are 1-0 against you in Super Bowls. We're 11 and
no, you're 0-1 against us in Super Bowls.
Did I say no?
Yes, you did.
0-1 in Super Bowls against your team. We're 11-9 all time, but you beat us when it counts, so we're not going to correct that ship.
That was, like, from a neutral's perspective, that game was just incredible. We'll talk more about it. I've already downloaded the full 3 hours to watching the plane on the way over. I'm not quite sure, like, in terms of what kind of things you'd be thinking about downloading on the plane. I'm thinking about getting a sitcom. I quite like Malcolm in the Middle. That could be a nice, yeah. I've been sitting on that one too long. It wasn't.
I'm hopefully going to try sleep for the 11 hours because I'm quite an antsy person. So 11 hours direct over to San Francisco. I'm going to need to either be able to walk up and down that plane like Russell Wilson doing high knees on the flight back from London. And you didn't hear about that? No. He got absolutely ripped for doing high knees on the flight to or from London. I can't remember.
Was this when he was playing for the Seahawks or something?
Oh, this is when he was playing for Denver.
Oh, okay.
And whereas
so it was funny because it was Denver.
It's Denver because they were terrible at the time. But yeah, so I'm hoping to sleep. But if not, I haven't watched TV in quite.
I don't know, dude.
Weeks, a lot of late night edits and stuff like that. So we're very busy here at the Irish NFL show. So we'll maybe take some time to catch up on some shows.
All right.
I'm watching landman at the minute. So
What's Landman?
you're not seeing. Oh,
I don't know. I genuinely like the pop culture
with oil.
Blackstone. It's covered in oil. Pop culture's passed me by. It's funny, like we're sitting here, but those of us who are watching will be able to spot. There's a Taylor Swift album behind us, a Harry Styles album behind us. Like the Taylor Swift shadows just cannot escape anything regarding the NFL.
I did ask you, did you want me to lower the camera so that I wasn't showing?
Oh, she's there. She's just there. Like, look, what is that? Midnight. Okay,
NFL is forever connected.
she was there last year and got booed quite heavily by the Eagles fans, and then she was somehow she looked. Remember, like being in the stadium, she came up on screen and everyone was like boo, and she looked like shocked the fact that Eagles fans would boo her. I'm like, what did you expect? You're literally you're dating somebody who's playing against your team. I don't care if you were an Eagles fan, you're younger.
Trade, but she was, I think, also like she met that.
She picked the wrong Kelsey, really.
Oh.
Yeah,
that's a debate, but we don't have enough time at that.
Not in this V club. Okay, let's talk about the fact that you're talking about sleeping the plane. There's been a lot of sleeping on both of these teams, I think, from the preseason. Understandably so, from the Patriots' point of view. I'm not going to argue, compared to the position we were in August and September, that the Patriots were a 60-1 team when it comes to you asking the question, are they going to win the Super Bowl? Most of the season I was like, we'd be looking to get 10 wins, maybe get into a wildcard spot, and who knows what happens from there. The idea that we've won our division and everything else has gone with it, I think, is far exceeded expectations. But the idea of this, I still think it was mad that the Seahawks were considered 60-1 as well. I'm going to list out the teams who were better favorites before the season started, right?
Just for the first time.
Yeah. So, like, obviously, you had Bills, Ravens, they were the favorites. You had Eagles, Chiefs, fair enough, they played the previous year. Then you had the Packers, then you had the Lions, fair enough, good teams. The Commanders, let's not forget, they played in the NFC Championship game last year. Then the 49ers, so that's the first 8 teams when it comes to the favorites being the Super Bowl. Then you had the Rams, then the Broncos, then the Bengals, then the Buccaneers.
Everything so far you could make an argument for as to why they're ahead of the two teams. To some degree, those are the closest things you're going on.
Joe Burrow
and Jamar Chase are that factor, and they've been there. So now
we keep going. The Vikings, the Steelers, the Texans, and this one, right? The Cardinals. The Cardinals were given 50-1 odds, 10-1 better. That's the right parlance than the Seahawks and the Patriots, and then the Bears were plus 5,500, and then you get to the Seahawks and Patriots who were both 60-1, and then so that leaves 8, 16, 17, 18 teams who were considered before the season to have a better chance of being of winning the Super Bowl than either of these squads. So I don't know.
Like I like to say, everybody loves an underdog, but we're currently not the underdog. So that's not the case for them.
Yeah, and why wouldn't people want New England? Forget about the badge, right? Look at none of the players here were on the Super Bowl 53 winning team. It's completely new. Drake May's there. He's got a girlfriend baking cookies. The girlfriend or wife? Is he married? Wife. Your girlfriend, wife making cookies for JetBlue. Mike Vrabel is a good players coach. Why wouldn't anybody like that?
We talked about it multiple times in the AV club over the last few weeks when we talked about possible something matchups. This is at the start of the playoffs. I had it back then that you guys were going to make it to the Super Bowl and face us. I got that right.
You manifested it from early on.
A couple of bumps along the way, but that was a matchup I wanted, and I wanted for you, for me, for the NFL, and the whole, because you were a very likable team. Drake May is great. Mike Vrabel is great. You've got a lot of underdogs on that team, not a lot of high names. You've got a couple of redemption arcs coming. You've got Stephon Diggs, who might be everybody's favorite person in the world, but you got to love that he's come back from bouncing around a couple of teams and has now made his first Super Bowl for, he played with Josh Allen and he's played with CJ Stroud. And the Super Bowl he makes is with the last year's 4th best in the division team in the...
Yeah. We came last in the division. We were picking 4th in the draft. So, it's an incredible turnaround. But yeah, no, it's it's funny looking back at it. Quite the journey. Again, I still feel like I've been such a pessimist around a lot of what's been happening in the Patriots. It's only after, we got the chance to play against the Broncos, I'm like, okay, now I actually believe that it's there for us. Because we were in the studio and Connor asked, do you think the Patriots are gonna get forward? And I was like, no, we play anybody other than the Chargers, we're getting dumped out of the playoffs. and then the Texans did what the Texans did. So yeah, it's been quite the run. By the way, fair play for being a better human being than I am. Because we were texting on Sunday night as to how the games are getting on. The Patriots are obviously on first. And I sent you a voice note afterwards being like, do you know what? Now that the Patriots have won, I want to see the Seahawks win. Why don't we have this? Why don't we have the whole, two of us have been to school together, all this. Now this is be the moment for our thing. Because beforehand, I was like, listen, if the Broncos win, I'm rooting for the Rams. This is because that's what I want to see. That's at that point I'm like, do you know what? As the very not nice part of my humanity was like, do you know what? If we can't get it, you can't get it either.
Terrible. All I wanted was for you to be in that, knowing that you're going to be in the stadium this year. All I wanted was for you to see your Patriots play, and the whole way through. So the fact that when you told me that, you were honest about it, which I appreciate. But the fact that you were wishing for our downfall on the off chance that you guys lost, was upsetting. So it lined with that.
Yeah. So here's the thing. So you've done some research, today is about just trying to get a sense as to what we can learn about these teams in terms of matchups, because of course they haven't played against each other. Like you were saying, even just the types of teams that the Seahawks have played against. You're talking about the Seahawks haven't faced a lot of those kind of rushing type quarterbacks. Obviously, they played the Panthers at the end of December. But I mean, who else from the list of quarterbacks that the Seahawks have faced would you say have the kind of rushing ability that Drake May has in that kind of Josh Allen mold in terms of the way he's able to play? So it's still difficult to try and figure out a way that we can get a sense as to where these teams are in terms of actually matching up. But you've taken a look at the games of common opponents and how they've actually matched up over the year.
It's the first time in a couple of years we've not played one another, so we need something to be able to play us together. We both played the NFC South, so that gave us
no wonder we both had easy schedules. We got to run to the easiest.
Had a very schedule. We had quite an easy one as well. I think that's the division games were a bit more important.
Yeah, I think if you actually look at like if your non-division opponents, there's a lot of crossover and maybe
there's a few strong ones.
You to go to Jacksonville in fairness, and what you won.
If Jaden Daniels didn't get injured during that game.
By the time you played them in November, they weren't the Commanders of last year.
But they were still in the NFC Championship game the year before. So, but other than that, yeah, we had it pretty. So if we take a look at this year, who we both played. We both played Steelers.
Don't name me that game, please.
We both played the Panthers. Not really much this.
So I'm right in saying the Seahawks won that game. That was the week 2 game that the Seahawks played, and that was in Pittsburgh, wasn't it? Yeah, and it was the week before they just played the Pats.
Chris Metcalf scored on us that game. The trade it went terribly, and laps didn't end up in the case. That was my we both played the Saints. You guys won by 6. We blew them out. Titans both wins. I think ours was a bit closer than yours. You had quite a good win margin against them.
6 points for the Seahawks. I actually remember that game. We remember looking at that and thinking, what the hell's going on with Seattle here? I remember
it was never down, but it was closer than it needs to be at the end. But he gave us a lot of trouble, Cam Ward. And I would probably when you were going through the list of mobile quarterbacks, there's no one particularly on there that strike you. There's no Josh Allen, there's no Drake May, but Cam Ward is probably the closest thing to on that list. He did give us some trouble. We both played the Falcons. You guys narrowly won by half. The Buccaneers, you guys did win that matchup later on in the year. We lost it.
I think there's a big difference in the Buccaneers we played and the Buccaneers you played.
Very different team that played. We played, I think, at the peak, getting a bit like Adam in there, especially after the
You lost. But you lost to them in Seattle. That was the game when both teams are wearing the throwback kits. They're both 50 years old this year, isn't that right? Yeah.
So that's the one you do have on us with a slight caveat on it, but you got it. And then we both played the Texans. You played them in playoffs, which is considerably more important, really. But we played them kind of when they were stumbling through right before their win streak. So look, take those wins and losses, as you will. But I think it's a good teller to say, like, there's a more games than Seahawks that they had more in charge over, and we, as you said, I think the thing you're going to hear over the next 2 weeks, but for the Patriots is you beat the teams running it, and that's exactly what you did, except in these instances where you lost to the Raiders in week 1, which is to cut you from playing in a blizzard last visit.
Yeah, I know. No, we would have played in a blizzard, just a blizzard in New England instead of a blizzard in Denver.
But home turf blizzard. We lost to the Steelers, as you mentioned. That wasn't a particularly good game. We lost to the Bills, as expected. You know, he split that series.
As expected, we were trying to 1-0 up in that game.
But you know what?
I mean, in terms of like preseason expectations, yeah, like
you know what I mean. That's not surprising that you lost one of your two games.
yeah, that's fair.
That's completely fair. And where we lost to the Niners once, we lost to the Rams once again. Split those series with them.
That game against the Rams that you lost, like, I mean, I remember talking to you afterwards, and you were like, because that was such a huge game for that particular weekend, and I remember like, wasn't that was the Sam Darnold 4 interception game, right? I remember coming out of that being like, how did the Seahawks get away with only losing that game by 21-19, right? That was a bizarre. So remind me what happened in that game that meant the Seahawks were able to keep it close.
He came out of that game thinking extremely positive thoughts. I think I was the only Seahawks fan in the world that thought that. But not that poorly. Only lost 21-19 with a possibility to win it. It wasn't a 55-yard plus field goal attempt from.
And the greatest punt of all time from the Rams at the end as well. That was unbelievable. It was a coffin corner.
For that, could have won that game, and I'm glad we did, because I think it kind of put some expectations back. I think we were undefeated at that time. Or sorry, no, we weren't undefeated.
No. You lost. You lost. It matters.
Well, we lost, and so I think we need to be put back in our place. I mean,
yeah, you were 7-2 going into that game. The Rams were 8. The Rams were also 7-2 going into that game.
Yeah.
So
it was a terrible outing. It could have absolutely sent the Sam Darnold narrative way worse than it ended up being. As in, he could have taken that as in, this is my norm, and he could have reverted back. See it goes Sam.
This is the thing that I actually found most impressive with Sam Darnold, the Sunday just gone. Because I assumed that once he saw those Rams helmets, you saw that even in the clip that he did over the weekend. I just assumed that once he saw those Rams helmets, that, you know, it'd be like, it's like, you know, like a soldier going back to Vietnam. He'd just be like, oh God, it's here we go again. They ended up playing some really good football, hit the deep passes at key moments, got the offense running again, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. He's given up 20 turnovers this year, which is an incredible amount. But just the fact that he got over the mental hump of the Rams makes you think that actually the Sam Darnold blow game actually mightn't happen this year.
And I had to edit you talk about that clip.
Yeah.
Sam Darnold blowout game been coming. That speech, which was great to be sitting there and have to listen over and over again and make sure everything was great on it. But yeah, it never really came. He had a slump towards the end of the season where he wasn't particularly on fire, and that's what led to Jackson Pitt. He still led the league in receiving, but in receiving yards did decline as the season went on. And so then you come to the Niners game, and he only puts up whatever yards he has to because our defense absolutely steamrolls the Niners. So at that point, we've not really had a Sam Darnold where he popped off for a crazy amount of yards, and all the doubters are coming out of their holes, and looking for him to have that game that you're referring to. And it didn't happen. He came out and he put up 346 yards, 3 TDs, 25 pretty thick. He had a better passer rating than Matt Stafford. It was a great showing, and as a Seahawks fan, it gives me optimism that, right, this is, you know, a big moment with Sam, and that's over. And it's making me consider bringing Sam Darnold this week.
Well, let's wait until see how the result goes. I'm just interested because let's just talk about the course of the season when, I guess, the belief came in. We talked about those preseason odds, and of course, over the course of the season, things change. The Patriots go on a really, really hot streak. I guess before I ask you about a weakness or a strength in the Patriots that you're afraid of, and I'll give mine about the Seahawks as well. Was there a moment during the season when you were watching and you were like, I think we actually could do it this year, right? Because like with a lot of, you go back to America's games and all this kind of thing, you look back at teams and there are some who are like favorites from very early on who get the job done. The Chiefs during their 2-in-a-row run, 2 in a row. Is that a phrase? Probably isn't. Their back-to-back run, you know, in recent years. I think the Eagles have had a decent chunk of belief. Where then you look at other teams who they needed something to happen either mid-season or there's something to click at a certain point. We were like, oh, it's on for us now. Was there a moment for the Seahawks that either made you or people at large look at them and think they actually might have something here?
I think it has to be the second round game. It had to be. There's no other moment. You know, you put Sam Darnold under a microscope. You know, and and he gets down to score a touchdown, they decide to go for two. And if any point, seeing go Sam that was going to come back, this is the point, and he didn't, and he delivers the 2-point conversion, and they win the game. And I think that's it for us. What about you?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think when we beat the Bills in week 5 on Sunday Night Football in Buffalo, it was such a great performance. And look, the Patriots have matched up well against the Bills, even in the bad years, we can call them that. Not
Sure. Let me get my violin there.
the 3 bad years we had. It's been a long 7 years, man. But even then, like, they always match up well. Like, the last really good performance of Mac Jones was at home to the Bills. There's something about the Bills to match up well against, even in this era where the Bills had won a number of divisions in a row. But there was just a couple of nice, obviously, the throw to Diggs to the right-hand side, which people always sort of go back on. It was the moment when the auras start coming in. It's when you see the Drake May Lover meme page become a thing. Some people start wearing the T-shirts. It's when people start giving him the nickname. And so people realize that actually that the Patriots have obviously spent a lot of money in the offseason, but they're making a push here. They're not going for the wild card. They're going for the division. And if you go for the division, you can get something else. And as always, after that game, you look at the schedule, it opened up for us because we had to play the Saints, Titans, Browns, Falcons, Bucks, Jets, Bengals, Giants before we played the Bills again in December. It was and that was the catalyst of that 10-game win streak that ended with when we played the Bills in Foxborough then in a couple weeks before Christmas. But that was a game where I was like, there might be something here that you know, a 10-7 season in a wild card isn't just going to be for us. I didn't believe that we could even be in the Super Bowl until after the Chargers game. I'll be honest. Until after the Chargers game, I was like, actually, this defense has stepped up enough at the right time and come to the peak at the right time that they probably could show up against, you know, a CJ Stroud who, as strong as he's been, and I think the calls for him to just be dumped out of Houston are calls too far. But I understand at that moment I saw CJ Stroud as somebody who you could go after and not somebody I was afraid of in the way that I would see Josh Allen. And then Buffalo, I thought, or not Buffalo, Denver, if that was the path, which ended up being the path, at that moment when Bo Nix wasn't injured, I was like, that might be a stretch too far for us, because this is a stat that I said before. No quarterbacks had to play and beat 3 top 5 defenses in the playoffs. Drake May has done that already. The last person to play 3 top 5 defenses in the playoffs was Cam Newton for the Panthers in Super Bowl 50 year, but he lost the third time to the Broncos. So, you know, you have to say that the Patriots have been able to play the physical type of football that makes games into those boring type games, but it kills the chaos and makes it easier for them to control.
We were in Berlin when you guys were playing the Buccaneers, and at that point we had roped Buccaneers off. They were doing some injuries, but they were still a very good team. And the fact that you went in and beat them, yourself and Sky were watching that game on a phone, on a train, and we couldn't believe what was happening. And
I couldn't believe we got signal to the U-band.
The Travion Henderson emergence game, that was for me, your kind of coming out party. I know you got to beat the Bills and stuff like that, but at the same time, the Bills will get beat, I think, that weekend by Miami. Was a real culture shift in that division. And that for me is something that will stick with me when it comes to your guys.
I think what's interesting with that game, you talk about the Buccaneers, the Patriots did not play good in that first half, but they still ended up being 14-10 up. Drake May getting the pass to Diggs, I think, in the last second of the second quarter. And just, you know, it's one of those things that even if you just kind of manage to rob games at moments when you're not playing at full strength, and you know every championship team has had smash and grab moments. So I think that's part of it. What about the Patriots makes you scared? Is it something that you look at either in playoffs or over the course of the year, or do you think the Seahawks might match up well against them?
Yeah, your special teams has been really strong, and it's also been a very good strength for us. I mean, you look how much of a momentum swing that special teams mess up with the Rams, and they haven't been very good with special teams all year. I think our punt and kick returns, etc., with Rashid Shaheed has been really important in getting us some really good.
Cause an earthquake in Seattle. I mean, come on.
It's been getting us some really good field position and getting us some great places. And your special teams is extremely strong. I don't know his name, but he was all over the place on Sunday. There's
the Patriots kick returner.
No, on the opposite side of the ball. Every time you guys punted or kicked off, this guy was blowing up the returner. I see it, Schuler, something like that. I don't know, but he was everywhere. Every single time, no one was getting any kind of return yards on him. And so I hit your special teams are really strong. Obviously, your defense has come on at the right time. That secondary is quite strong. You got Christian Gonzalez, which has some learning to do. You got beat area on that.
Brendan Scooter, you have his name here, yeah.
He was a monster on special teams against Denver. And as I say, Christian Gonzalez, is a bright young star. He's got some learning to do. He got beat on that 50-yard pass by Marvin Mims. But after that, made up for it in the game. So the secondary is strong when we got to play against this, and your front four is really great. There's no big name on it other than the only ones know other than Milton Williams.
The no-name defense.
So it's really that's where we're going to struggle the most, and we want to get kind of Walker going, and that's probably where we're going to struggle the most on that.
Yeah, I mean, just on the Christian Gonzalez point, because I mean, Gonzalez is not a frustrating player to watch, but he's gas, and that like he's the first player that everybody mentions on the Patriots defense in terms of named Patriots defensive players. You got Spillane, you got Gonzalez. That's you gotta move on from there. He gets caught ball watching, I think, a lot of the times when he's in the kind of red zone situations. Remember we pulled out the stat at one point in the season when we said the Patriots were at that point the worst red zone defense in the league. They were coming into that Chargers game the worst red zone defense, but they were the best at keeping teams out of the red zone in the first place. One of the key differences there is the fact that Gonzalez, in those situations when there isn't a huge amount of distance between where a receiver would be, because you're only playing in a short field, I think he gets confused as to where he's going. Whereas on those deep passes, Gonzalez is fast and can lock down anybody on a deep pass because he's just, okay, you're my man. I'm sticking to you like glue. I'm locking you down. That's how you manage to get the interception. So it's a good point on Gonzalez, though. It'll be interesting to see like if he ends up picking up Smith and Jigba or Raheed Shaheed, like to what extent is he going to have to try and be that glue? Because if you get into those short ball situations, I think if Darren, like what happened against the Broncos, the quarterback comes out to the right, Gonzalez should be marking his man. What he sees is the quarterback in front and just sees the ball as big shiny thing. I'm going to go and blitz for that, and then changes his mind like 2 steps into his run, and he gets caught in the wrong position. He's not doing either. That's been happening consistently with him. So yeah, that's just to get that off my chest about Gonzo.
You guys are in the playoffs only allowing 8.7 points per game, which the best offense that you play, not particularly impressive, but 8.7 points per game is still crazy. We're second with 16.5. We would have picked 2 games.
Yeah, I was gonna say like maybe those stats.
30 points is the caveat on that. Obviously, it brought it way up,
and it's the Rams.
But then you look at us. You're scoring 18 points per game because you're not really need to do much more than that. We're putting up 36 points per game.
Yeah, that's fair. And that's and in fairness, unlike the defensive one, I think like that average is over 2 games of 2 good offensive performances.
Yeah, and you look at then some key playmakers. Ken Walker, who's leading the playoffs in rushing touchdowns with that one less game, and Drake May second. He's got and then Walker got 6 touchdowns in 2 games. Yeah, that doesn't sound right. I feel like that's wrong. I read that on the internet. That's Drake May apparently has 4.
Yeah. No, but I didn't know. I didn't know he had more than even other running backs.
The number I went that. Yeah. They're crazy good. Yeah, so you got urchin playmakers on both sides, and JSN's got 2 touchdowns in 2 games. There's nobody on offense I'm particularly worried about. We're going to key in on Keyshawn Boutte, and we're going to key in on.
Yeah, I mean, we were plenty of time in the next couple of weeks to sort of key in on that. But I tell you the one thing I'm worried about the Seahawks. I mean, look, we saw how Will Anderson ran through Will Campbell in the Texans Patriots game. Like Anderson ran through Will Campbell like a tank shooting a cake.
Didn't have a great game against Denver either.
No, he didn't.
Poor Will Campbell.
And this is the thing. Like you look at who you guys have gone up from between Lawrence, Byron Murphy, Williams. But tell you somebody who I've liked over the course of the year, and is he I don't know how often it's been used. Nick Evan every time he's on the field, he seems to be that kind of. He seems to be in the right position. I remember saying before. I specifically remember you can go back to April saying this. I thought the Seahawks had the best draft of anybody in 2025. Evan Ward has been running really nice picks from Boston College in the second round. I think is where you gone. South Carolina, sorry. Um, so and there's one or two little playmakers like that. And look, we talk about the Super Bowl 49. I mean, Super Bowl 49 had both teams giving coming up with these unusual playmakers or playmakers who almost never really there before. Obviously, Malcolm Butler getting the goal line interception, but then also
And the backup, I think, going.
yeah, and
I think we almost tried to target him after he came in. That didn't go well.
but pretty much the only thing that the most remarkable part of his career, and he'll obviously get plenty of time. But was it Matthews for the touchdown pass? The we were talking about earlier in work. He's a guy who like earlier that year was working in a Foot Locker, I think, or something like this, and just got picked off, and all of a sudden he was just this really unexpected guy. I mean, if we talk about the history of this particular matchup, I mean, guys who aren't your preseason picks or pre-game picks to make the game-winning play, and it'll be interesting as well next week. I mean, I got a feeling about Cooper DeJean whenever I was near him in the Philadelphia press last year. He might do something special, and of course, he ended up getting the game pivotal play for the Eagles last year. I'm just what I'm worried about with Seattle is I feel like there's a lot of guys there who you don't necessarily buy their jerseys. They're not necessarily the top guys, but there's somebody in there in that defense. I think is going to come up with something monumental. That's what I'm worried.
That's completely fair. I'm worried not someone is someone not unlike Christian Gonzalez, where he's a rookie. He's quite ball hawk heavy and gets caught sometimes in between two players. But you saw it against the Rams. He had a couple of pass breakups. He was flying around the place like a missile. And there was no place in the field that he felt lost, So he's come on pretty strong. I think if you're not buying his jersey this year, I think he will be in the next coming years. And they've got pieces like that across the board. The Seahawks do. I think they have a lot more names than the Patriots do. But as you said, what you call yourselves, the no-name team?
The no-name Patriots have a no-name defense. They're not. There's no superstars. There's no Richard Shermans on our crew, but they get the job done because they're supremely well coached. That's the narrative we're all building behind here.
What's the other? You sent me a TikTok there last week or week before. We're all we.
Oh, we all we need. That's been the Patriots creed. That's the new do your job. Do your job is dead. That's Belichick. We all we need,
And do we know what Warriors is that he shouted after they got the Lamar Hunt trophy? He shouted Mike Rabel shouted to his team. Do we know what that was? No. Sure, he's probably very trained to put in an inside joke. But he seems like they seem like a very close-knit team, and not unlike ours. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, very much. All right, well, look, that's it. We've got pretty much 2 weeks to talk about this game. But this is our opportunity to talk about was wearing jerseys, because next week we'll be wearing simply the green jersey for the Irish NFL show, and representing ourselves, our show, our fans, our listeners, and our country. I guess. Do we put that much self-importance on ourselves? We're representing
the word Patriots out of what I do for the next 2 weeks. Patriotic, a double-edged sword. So as much as you can.
Yeah, well, look, I'm very much looking forward to it. We'll be there from Monday night onwards when the Super Bowl opening media night is on, which means we'll be able to get close to the players. So if there's anything you think would be interesting to hear from the players, we might even get a chance to ask one over the course of the week. But for now, thank you very much for listening to the AV Club on the Irish NFL show. Love to know how long that guys.
I'm like shit. We were 44. That's not.